Something happened in the celestial realm that resonates even now, echoing in the silence between scripture verses and the unanswered questions of faith. It's not a secret shrouded in divine mystery, but a profound heartbreak, a moment of unbearable vulnerability that heaven itself hesitates to recall. Before the fiery rebellion, before the insidious tendrils of pride took root, before the catastrophic fall, there existed a singular, agonizing instant. In that instant, the Creator gazed upon Lucifer with the profound, aching understanding of a parent watching a beloved child irrevocably stray from the path. Imagine standing close enough to witness the luminescence in someone's eyes and recognizing with chilling certainty that its essence is subtly yet irrevocably altering. This is the burden heaven bore, witness to a nascent schism, a heartbreaking fracture, a chasm of silence forming between God and His most magnificent creation, a silence that had never existed before. From that silence arose a conversation, a dialogue of cosmic consequence from which the universe would never fully recover. You are familiar with the tragic narrative of Lucifer's descent, his expulsion from grace. But do you truly comprehend the divine plea, the yearning supplication that God uttered in a desperate attempt to draw him back from the precipice? Do you know the final words of love, the ultimate expression of fatherly devotion spoken before the cataclysmic shattering of their bond? Tonight we delve into that poignant, devastating story. Before we immerse ourselves in this pivotal moment, a warm welcome to Bible Mysteries. If your spirit yearns for profound, emotionally resonant explorations of Scripture, we invite you to express your appreciation by liking this presentation, subscribing to our channel, and activating the notification bell so you will never miss an upcoming story. The event transpired with quiet solemnity, no thunderous pronouncements, no seismic tremors, no violent clash of wings or celestial tempests raging across the heavens. Instead, it was a gradual realization, a subtle yet deeply unsettling shift in the atmosphere surrounding one of God's most radiant beings. Lucifer stood in one of the elevated realms of heaven, a domain typically vibrant with unrestrained joy. Light pulsed with celestial energy, voices soared in harmonious praise, and purpose flowed freely like the very breath of existence. But on this day, Lucifer stood apart, detached from the prevailing euphoria. He was almost unnaturally still, as if consumed by thoughts that were forbidden ideas he was desperately trying to conceal even from his own consciousness. His inherent radiance remained undiminished. His face still possessed that flawless, ageless perfection. His cascading golden hair continued to frame his visage like an eternal dawn. Outwardly, nothing betrayed the internal turmoil he was experiencing. Only his eyes held the truth. There was an unfamiliar distance there, a chilling void where profound intimacy had previously resided, a hesitant pause where eager anticipation had once flourished, a disquieting stillness that seemed profoundly out of place within the heart of heaven's most devoted worshiper. Have you ever observed someone you deeply cherish and sensed, even before a single word is uttered, that a fundamental aspect of their being has undergone a transformation? Perhaps not a change dramatic enough to be immediately apparent, but a subtle shift that instills a sense of unease, a premonition of something lost or broken. This was precisely the nature of that moment. Other angels passed by, oblivious to the unfolding drama. Why would they suspect anything amiss? He was Lucifer, the morning star, the celestial conductor who guided entire choirs in rapturous praise. the being who infused heaven with an exhilarating vitality. But even within the realm of perfection, hidden fissures can develop. God, in his infinite awareness, perceived the nascent crack immediately. He approached Lucifer with measured grace, not with punitive judgment, not with a consuming fire, but with a profound presence that filled the space long before a single syllable was spoken. Lucifer initially avoided eye contact. This reluctance was unprecedented. The subtle hesitation, the almost imperceptible delay, was something utterly foreign to heaven. He had always looked upward, his face radiant with joy. He had always turned eagerly toward his Creator. But today he hesitated, and within that hesitation, one could almost perceive eternity itself exhaling in pained resignation. Finally, Lucifer raised his eyes. His expression was controlled almost too perfect, a facade of composure designed to convey the illusion that everything was in order, when in reality, nothing was. God regarded him with the gentle, searching gaze of a father observing a child who is physically present but emotionally, spiritually slipping away. There were no accusations, no palpable tension in God's voice, only a deep quiet, probing the kind that arises when you sense the beginning of losing someone you never conceived of losing. For a timeless moment, neither spoke, and that silence became the genesis of heartbreak. The conversation that would irrevocably alter the destiny of heaven had not yet commenced, but the vast distance between them had already begun to expand. Lucifer remained silent, lost in thought. He simply stood there, the faintest trace of inner conflict flickering across his perfect features. His wings trembled almost imperceptibly, a subtle tremor visible to no one but himself. Even in a realm where absolute transparency reigned, he had learned to harbor a secret, and this particular secret was laden with danger. God's presence drew closer, not as an overwhelming force, but as a pervasive weight that could not be ignored. Every step was measured deliberate. Each footfall was carefully placed to simultaneously convey both comfort and a silent warning. It was a presence that communicated, "I see you, I know you, and you are beginning to drift away." Lucifer's mind raced. He mentally rehearsed potential responses, not to defend his actions, not yet. He sought to gauge the space between his current state and his desired future. He recalled every note of every song he had ever composed, every harmonious chord that had once elevated heaven to greater heights, and he wondered, almost afraid to admit it to himself, if he was capable of achieving even greater heights than he had previously attained. God spoke first, his tone devoid of accusation, free of anger, a simple statement weighted with profound truth. "You were created for a specific purpose, as a beacon of light, entrusted to reflect my essence." The words were spoken softly, yet they landed with the resonating impact of stone falling upon water. Each syllable sent ripples throughout Lucifer's being. He felt an overwhelming urge to argue, to rationalize his actions, to enumerate the countless ways in which he had faithfully served, the myriad ways he had reflected the gifts he had been given. But he sensed a fundamental truth within those words, a truth that transcended pride, that bypassed rationalization. Have you ever experienced a truth so piercingly clear that it leaves no room for debate or defense? This was precisely that kind of moment. Lucifer's golden hair caught the light as he subtly shifted his weight, attempting to conceal a flicker of fear, the faintest acknowledgement that the innermost recesses of his heart were being exposed. And God continued, the weight of eternity infused within his voice. Now, your inherent gifts are not yours to possess, to claim as your own. They are bestowed upon you as a sacred trust, and the light you carry can either guide or blind. The choice is yours to make, but the consequences are undeniable. Lucifer averted his gaze for the first time, glancing toward the infinite expanse of heaven, where other angels continued their celestial duties, unaware of the mounting tension between Creator and creation. His mind flooded with images of unprecedented glory, unimaginable possibilities, and the allure of a throne conceived solely for him. Yet within that very act of imagining, he experienced the first pang of fear. God waited patiently, not with impatient impatience, but with an almost unbearable sorrow. He did not need to speak further. The silence that stretched between them morphed into another form of presence, exerting an invisible pressure upon Lucifer's soul. Lucifer's chest tightened. He had never felt so diminished in the face of his own ambition. His unparalleled brilliance, his captivating beauty, his soaring voice, none of these qualities could shield him from the internal conflict he was experiencing. And yet, the insidious desire persisted to rise above, to surpass his designated limitations, to seize what was not rightfully his. And so, still veiled in silence, still unbroken by confrontation, they stood in that agonizing stillness. Two beings connected by love and intertwined destiny, poised on the edge of an abyss. God's next words, when they came, would penetrate not only Lucifer's mind, but also the very core of his being. But before that fateful utterance, heaven itself seemed to hold its breath, leaning inward, awaiting the impending pronouncement. Finally, the first words were spoken, not delivered with commanding force, but imbued with undeniable intention. "Nah, you are drifting," God said. It was not a question posed for clarification. It was not a cautionary warning, not yet. It was a simple statement of fact, yet it cut deeper than any accusation could have. Lucifer felt the impact in his chest, in the hollow, unexplored spaces within his soul. For a moment, he remained silent. He desperately wanted to argue, to present his justifications, to offer explanations for the disquieting stirrings within his own heart. But as he opened his mouth to speak, no words materialized. God's eyes were gentle, yet penetrating. They did not regard him with the cold detachment of a ruler surveying a subject. They reflected the concern of a parent watching a child teetering on the edge of a precipice, filled with unwavering love, profound understanding, and heartbreaking sorrow all at once. "You were created to reflect my light," God continued, "not to rival it, not to claim it as your own. You have been entrusted with glory, not to elevate yourself above the position I have designed for you." Lucifer swallowed hard. He had mentally rehearsed this moment countless times, envisioning various scenarios, yet none of them had prepared him for the palpable heartbreak evident in God's tone. There was no judgment present, only the crushing weight of disappointment. A disappointment that stemmed not from ignorance, but from boundless love. He wanted to explain, to defend his aspirations. "But I could accomplish so much more. I am capable of more." The unspoken words resonated within him. "I could be even greater than what I currently am." God remained silent, allowing the silence to amplify the truth of what Lucifer had just admitted, not through explicit words, but through the rising tide of desire that had begun to consume him. Greater. God's voice was soft, almost mournful. Do you not comprehend that true greatness cannot be seized through ambition? It is cultivated through humble obedience. It is measured not by what you can acquire, but by the responsibility you are entrusted with and the faithfulness with which you safeguard it. Lucifer's jaw tightened. The words were not intended as an attack, yet each syllable felt like an insurmountable barrier. He simultaneously felt both the unwavering love emanating from his Creator and the impossibility of the choice unfolding before him. To retreat into humility would mean relinquishing the captivating vision that had begun to dominate his thoughts. To advance would mean crossing a line of no return. And yet, even as he succumbed to the intoxicating pull of pride, the nascent spark of rebellion, a part of him desperately clung to a fading memory, the memory of pure, unadulterated joy of walking in perfect harmony with God, bathed in celestial light. That precious memory battled against the growing darkness in his heart. God's next words were not delivered as a pleading entreaty, but as an unyielding truth. The light within you has the potential to either guide or blind. Your heart has already begun to select its path, but every path is marked by its own consequences. Every choice shapes the course of eternity. Lucifer's wings trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. No other being could detect the subtle tremor. Even heaven itself might have remained unaware had it not been for the way the overarching harmony of creation itself seemed to sense the subtle vibration of his soul. And in that moment, standing on the precipice of a monumental decision, Lucifer gained a terrifying realization. He was no longer merely a child of heaven, basking in unquestioning obedience. He had evolved into a being capable of independent choice, capable of open defiance, capable of becoming everything God had feared he might become. The initial words had been spoken, and with them came the burden of a profound, irreversible choice. Lucifer remained motionless, silent, yet every fiber of his being vibrated with internal conflict. God's unwavering gaze remained fixed upon him, patient, unyielding, like the relentless tide pressing against a steadfast cliff, gentle yet unstoppable. "You are beautiful," God said, "brilliant, perfect, in form, intellect, and song. But do not mistake your inherent beauty for a throne you can seize." The words were not delivered with anger, but they struck with the searing intensity of fire, not the fire of punishment, but the illuminating fire of truth. The words revealed something Lucifer had never before confronted with such clarity, that all his gifts, all his inherent glory, were not his to own. They were bestowed upon him as a sacred trust, imbued with a specific purpose, and he was already beginning to manipulate them for his own selfish gain. Lucifer's mind raced, and for the first time, a flicker of doubt ignited within him. Could it be possible that he was wrong? Could his perception of his own potential be flawed? Could ambition be a deceptive trap, a silent poison gradually infecting his heart? I am meant to lead," he finally said, his voice low, hesitant, trembling, with a complex mixture of pride and underlying fear. "I was given light. I have the capacity to guide. I can ascend to even greater heights than this place. You can, God interrupted softly, "but not in the way you envision. No ascent beyond your designed purpose will come without exacting a cost far greater than you are willing to bear. The desire to elevate yourself beyond your intended purpose is the first whisper of ruin. Pride takes root in silence, and its growth is relentless." Lucifer's wings shifted subtly, a nearly imperceptible quiver that went unnoticed by all but God. Even in the midst of his unparalleled brilliance, he felt the tightening coils of tension wrapping around him. Pride, ambition, the overwhelming temptation to seize what had not been freely given. The experience was thrilling, intoxicating, and utterly terrifying. "Why should I remain confined to this limited scope," he asked, "when I possess the knowledge, the power, the inherent lights to achieve something far greater?" His words projected an outward confidence, but inwardly he trembled with uncertainty. He did not fully comprehend the weight of the question he had just posed aloud. God's gaze softened, infused with a sorrow more profound than any earthly blade could inflict. "Young, you are not confined," he said. "You are exactly as I designed you to be, but you are not meant to appropriate what is inherently mine. The gifts I have bestowed upon you are not intended for self-exaltation, but for the reflection of my glory. You are capable of guiding, but you cannot seize the throne. You are capable of illuminating, but you cannot rule above me. To attempt such an act is to dismantle the very essence of your inherent radiance." For a long moment, Lucifer remained silent, grappling with the weight of God's words. He felt the urge to rebel, to challenge, to deconstruct the truth and reshape it to align with his desires. But deep within, he recognized the undeniable truth, and it filled him with a profound sense of dread. This was no ordinary warning. This was the voice of a creator who had witnessed the destructive power of pride long before its manifestation. This was love, expressed in a form that could not be ignored, quiet, persistent, and devastatingly honest. Lucifer's eyes darted toward the far reaches of heaven, to the other angels who continued their harmonious existence, oblivious to the internal battle raging within the heart of the one who had once been their brightest beacon. And in that fleeting glance, he experienced the first pangs of isolation, not because anyone had shunned him, but because he was consciously choosing to sever himself from the source of light that had defined him and from the one who had bestowed upon him every gift he possessed. God's next words were even quieter this time, almost a whisper carried on the celestial currents of eternity itself. "Mayha, the path you envision may seem alluring, but it will ultimately consume you. The choice to elevate yourself above the place I have designated for you is the choice that will initiate the undoing of everything you cherish." Lucifer's chest constricted. His mind spun, torn between the allure of desire and the chilling grip of fear, between the intoxicating promise of ambition and the fading memory of pure selfless love. He could almost physically feel the potential of his being stretching toward the horizon of his desires, and the inevitable cost wrapping around his soul like an oppressive shadow. And in that agonizing silence, in the unspoken space between them, the initial hairline fracture in the celestial realm began to take shape. It would inevitably widen. It would spread like a malignant disease. But for now, it remained subtle. It was almost imperceptible, yet it carried the weight of an eternity. Lucifer's chest constricted. His mind raced faster than any angelic wings could propel him. Every thought, every memory, every harmonious note he had ever composed collided within his soul, echoing against the unyielding walls. He recalled the initial moments he had experienced upon entering the celestial realm, the way the light had caressed his wings, the sheer exhilaration of creating music that flowed effortlessly from his being. Those cherished memories tugged at his heart, a fragile thread of purity he desperately didn't want to lose. And yet, there was something else, something far darker and more enticing, a whisper that resonated within, promising him that he was capable of achieving more. He could seize what had been promised to no one. He could ascend to the highest heights. He could claim a position that was not his to claim. The tension between those conflicting voices, obedience and ambition, stretched him to his absolute limit, and he could feel his own light flickering under the strain. In that stretching, suffocating tension, the first betrayal did not explode. It crystallized, not in heaven's atmosphere, but in Lucifer's own heart. Pride was not yet a shout. It was a whisper with teeth. God did not move. He did not summon fire, did not summon armies. He simply remained unshakable, gentle, a love so steady it felt like judgment. You are still free to turn. His presence said, even when his mouth did not, you are still mine, if you want to be. For a fleeting instant, Lucifer almost broke. He almost fell forward into the arms that had fashioned him, almost confessed the poison blooming inside his thoughts, almost surrendered the throne he had begun to build in secret. For one heartbeat of eternity, heaven tilted toward healing. But then he looked away. He looked past the one who made him and fixed his gaze on what he believed he deserved. In that single glance, the universe felt the axis shift. The fracture widened. The music of heaven, once seamless, gained its first discordant note. God's final words before the war were not a threat, but a wound spoken aloud. Lucifer, what you are choosing will break you, but I will let you choose. Heaven never forgot that sentence. So friends, as we conclude this poignant exploration, we've seen a heartbreaking moment, not of divine rage, but of profound love, facing a devastating choice. The story of Lucifer isn't just about rebellion and downfall, but about the agonizing birth of a schism between a creator and his creation, a moment where free will and yearning collided with consequences that echo through eternity. It reminds us that even in the face of ambition, the choice between humility and pride is ever present, and that true greatness lies not in grasping for more, but in honoring the gifts we've been given. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. What resonated most with you? Do you have any questions or insights you'd like to share? Please leave a comment below, and let's continue this exploration together. And if you found this journey into Bible mysteries thought-provoking and inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. That way, you'll never miss our next deep dive into the untold stories and hidden gems within Scripture. Until then, may your spirit continue to seek and discover